everyone, welcome to another chess video. In this video, we are going to discuss about a game played in the Norway Chess Tournament 2025, which is going on in Norway. And it is the first round encounter between the world #1 player Magnus Carlsen and the world chess champion, the recently turned 19-year-old Tomaraju Gukesh of India. And this is particularly interesting because it was a Jobava London game, and that got me interested. The world #1 playing Jobava means that it gives a stamp of approval to that opening, and this is actually a very important tournament, and it's a classical tournament. And so playing Jobava in a classical tournament, world #1 playing Jobava in a classical tournament is huge. So let's get started and dive in and see the game. Dive in and get started. The game starts with d4, knight f6 by Gukesh, knight c3 by Magnus, and d5, and bishop f4. Now we are in the Jobava London territory, and there are many moves here: e6, c6, a6, g6, all are moves, and c5 is the most critical continuation, and the world champion plays c5, and here Magnus played e3. There are other moves. Mainly e4 is possible. Knight f3 is also possible, but e4 is actually the most forcing line recommended by Botnick and Radetzky in their course, and it leads to a lot of force variations. For example, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d takes e4, d takes c5, queen a5 check, c3, queen takes e5, queen a4 check, knight c6, queen takes e4, let's say bishop f5, queen e3. These are all very forcing lines in this e4 variation. Another line is g6, knight f3, bishop g7, and here white can play rook d1. There are many moves, but the traditional way to continue is e3, which Magnus plays. So I also play e3. I also prefer e3 because you get a chance to play in a very flexible manner, and it is in the spirit of the opening. But e4 is also very interesting. Bishop g4. This is a very interesting move. Instead of that, usually black plays a6. Here, sometimes, and d takes c5 is a very critical move. It gets pawn advantage, but black gets a lot of play. Another move is c takes d4, e takes d4, and bishop g4. And after f3, bishop d7, knight b5, bishop takes b5, bishop takes b5, knight c6. This is kind of a equal position. Go back. Here, black can play a6 first, and after knight f3, bishop g4, h3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3. This is a very important theoretical line played by many grandmasters. Very notable game in this line is Rapport versus Sutovsky in the Tomsky Olympiad, and also Perusa versus Nepomniachtchi in YKNC 2024. So all these games are very important theoretical value. You can check it out. And also, I think Perusa played the same line against Anand in the global Tech Mahindra Global League as well, if I remember correctly. But let's go back to the game line. Here, Magnus played bishop e2, which is a very timid and positional continuation. He didn't like f3 because it might weaken the structure. So Magnus played bishop e2, bishop takes e2, knight e takes e, c takes e2, which is a very interesting move. Usually, white plays knight g takes e2 and hold the structure like that. But Magnus wanted to play like in a London way. knight c6 and knight f3, e6, c3. So white follows the London method of development, having this triangle pawn in the center, and he maybe wants to play h4, maybe castle, maybe not. So it's a very flexible structure for white. Bishop e7, knight g3, castle, and queen e2. So basically, this is the spirit of the London, the classical London, where white plays queen e2 and tries to play e4, and also on the king side. H6, rook d1, queen a5, a very interesting move, threatening c takes d5, and threatening this pawn immediately. So white prevents it by playing a3, rook d8, and h4. White wants to create some chances on the king side, maybe rook lift to h3, and those kind of ideas. After playing knight e5, knight h5, rook h3 are all in the air, and just put the arrows. So I think this will give white a good initiative. Queen a4, knight e5, knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, and knight d7. Black wants to simplify the position, and white doesn't want the exchange of bishops, so bishop f4. Queen a6, black wants to exchange of the queens, where after queen a6, queen takes a6, let's just show you the move. A6, b takes a6. You can't put a piece on b8, but there'll be a lot of pressure on the b file later. So black is doing fine. So Magnus wanted to play with the queen. So he played queen f3, bishop d6, and knight h5. Very important move. Bishop takes f4, and queen takes f4. So position is relatively equal, but white has some ideas of creating an attack on the king side, like the rook lift, which I mentioned before. So e5 is a very important move, immediately striking. Maybe he could have done it after taking on d4 also. Queen g3 and queen g6, otherwise it's mate on g7. Queen takes, queen, and pawn takes, hitting the knight. Knight has to move, and after c takes d4, c takes d4 and c4. Otherwise, the d5 pawn will be weak. So c4 is an important move. Knight d2, knight is coming to the c3 square to put pressure on d5. b5, knight c3, knight f6. You can't actually take on b5 because of rook b8, and the b2 will fall, and black will have a passed pawn at that time on c4. So that's why knight takes b5 is not a good idea. Rook b1, rook b8, and e3. White wants to play e4 at some point, and maybe g4 as well, gaining some space on the king side. A5 and d4. It's a very interesting move. I think you want to stabilize the position on the queen side. Closing the playing a4 and closing the queen side is not a good idea because there will be a pressure on b5 always. The rook will be condemned to defend b5. So you have to take on passant. Pawn takes pawn, and b4, hitting the knight. Pawn takes pawn, rook takes pawn, exchanging of more pieces. Now, very important move, e8, hitting this e3 pawn. So king d2 and rook check, king d3, rook takes g2, rook takes a5, and rook g3 are hitting the f3 pawn, rook f1, and g5. Black wants to create a passed pawn on the king side as soon as possible to create counterplay because d5 is weak, and it will fall at any time. So pawn takes pawn, and rook a1, h5, rook a8, takes rook takes rook check, king h7, and e4. So white creates a passed pawn on the center of the board, and black has got passed pawn on the King side, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and h4. E5 and h3, sacrificing the knight for time, actually. So in chess, there are three types of advantages. One is material, the second is positional, and third is time. It is okay to sacrifice the material because black will queen first, and he can create threats against the white king. Pawn takes knight, h2, f7, and a very important check, king d2, and queens and queens. Here, Gukesh goes wrong actually. Here, rook g2 check was important, and after maybe rook b3, uh, there are multiple ways. Rook g3 check is uh, in c2 because you can't go to king c4 because of queen c6 check, and after say in here, um, black has got a lot of winning ideas. He'll pick up this route, and black is winning actually. So queen b4 is also bad. I mean, it leads to checkmate. So it is important to give a check on g2, but after queening, black went wrong and gave a check here, and now the white king escapes. Uh, Queen g6 check, king b2, queen queen b6 check, and after rook g2 check, king a3, rook b2 check, king a4, queen takes knight, and black king gets checkmate. This is what Gukesh missed, the decent results. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed this video, please do share, like, share, and subscribe. It helps me a lot. And until next time,